My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast. A podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jobs, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Welcome back. Today is a beautiful day. With me is Andrea. Andrea works with women over 50, when you're getting into that second life and you're beginning to ask questions. Is this all? Is this all my life? You've done 50 hours. So most of us, our lifespan is not more than 100. At least that's what I would imagine for me. And you're going, wow, that was my first half of my life. Is that what I want in my second half? The women that Andrea works with find themselves frustrated with where they are in their midlife. You wake up and you're like, where did my life go? These women often find themselves looking for answers that they cannot see. They often find themselves looking for the switch to turn off the noise that lives in their head. Andrea has been a life coach and a workshop facilitator for over 18 years. And through this process, she's created a blueprint that take you from where you're at today to complete freedom. And my goal, or my private goal today, is that she can go through that blueprint and tell us exactly how to move from a place where I'm unhappy to a point where hopefully I can step into my second half with a different life. Andrea told me before we started that she has been certified by the School of Hard Knocks, that life has certified her. And so I am excited for this guest. I think it will be an amazing conversation. And let's dive in. Andrea, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast. I'm so excited that you made it.
Oh my goodness, Prima, as you were just saying that, it's like, you are fantastic. You truly are fantastic. And excuse me if I could, I love the name of your podcast, The Best Kept Secret, because honestly, like this is the first time I'm expressing it. That's truly how I felt about myself and who I am as a coach. So I know that I am in the best place for me to be today.
Yes, you are,
And it's a
Andrea.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. And it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, you are. On top of my mumbling, could you tell in simple terms the listener what you do? Because I mumble a lot and sometimes I miss the point. Okay. What do you do, Andrea?
Okay, you're so cute because you and I are very similar. I mumble too. So I am a certified life coach, actually a certified mindset coach. And yes, on top of that certification, life very much certified me. I became certified. I started my certification in 2004, getting certified when the coaching industry, depending upon where you lived in the world. So I'm Canadian, and in the part of Canada that I'm in, it hadn't really started to generate any type of buzz. But I knew that it was something that it was like a perfect fit for everything and all of the experience that I had already come with. And at that stage, I was in my early 40s when I started to get certified. I have a social work background, but I'm an artist, but I had been in sales, and I woke up. I had just turned 40, and I woke up on a Tuesday morning after a long weekend here in Canada, but my husband had not woken up.
Wow.
He had passed away in his sleep.
Wow.
Excuse me. He had just turned 41.
Mm.
Our son had just turned 10, and our daughter was 5.5.
Mm.
And for me, it felt like the rug got pulled out from under my feet. And
Mm.
I was just like, I was falling. I was free falling. I couldn't get my footing. I couldn't get my grounding. To make it worse, we had no expectations that my husband would pass away. We were very poor planners, meaning we had no life insurance in place.
Mm.
So when he passed, I was left with tens of thousands of dollars in debt, two children to have to now raise on my own
Mm.
and provide for on my own, because prior to that, it was two incomes coming into the house. And I was a mess. I was a mess.
Mm.
I had to take some time off because if I would have had to have gone for a job interview
Mm.
and they would say, so what have you been doing in the last 2 months, or to see that gap in the resume, I would have fallen apart. Like I literally would have fallen to pieces. So I
Mm.
needed to take some time off, which was really good. And it was good for the children too, that I was able to be very present and they wouldn't have to, the kids had a lot of anxiety, my son more than my daughter,
Mm.
and would sometimes have to call home from school and need to be picked up. So it was less anxiety for him because he knew he wasn't having to phone his mom at work. Mommy was at home. And that gave him a sense of reassurance. So, in any case, I took a year off and then I decided I don't know who I want to be when I grow up. I felt like that. Like, who am I? What do I want
Mm.
to do? I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I took a workshop that helped me to really see the full scope of all of my skills, the
Mm.
transferable skills, the permanent skills, and it was life coaching. I literally heard the Lord say to me, I want you to be a life coach. This is what I want for you.
Wow.
And that set me on my path to
Mm.
then getting certified and finding clients. It
Mm.
hasn't always been easy, Prima. This journey in not the coaching is always, it's a very natural part of me, in all honesty, but
Mm.
the creating a brand, I didn't even know what that meant at one time.
Mm.
Structuring a business, I had been in sales for a long time, but I marketed other people's products. They had already developed that brand. The brand
Mm.
was really well known. I just needed to go out and share their brand so I
Mm.
could always be successful, right? But now I'm the brand. I want to share just a very quick story, if I may. It
Mm.
was very early on after my husband George had passed away, and
Mm.
some of my girlfriends came over, and it was a Friday night,
Mm.
and we were sitting around and we're having a glass of wine. And, when you get into those serious conversations of, well, what are you going to do with your life now, Andrea?
Mm.
Right? My life is a big fat mess. What are you going to do with your life?
Mm.
And I said to one friend, I said, you know what? I don't know. But what I do know is
Mm.
I'm not going to market anybody's products anymore. If I'm
Wow.
going to market something, it's going to be me. But I had
Mm.
no idea what that even meant. Follow a
Mm.
year later, when I hear the Lord tell me, I want you to be a life coach.
Mm.
I could have went back to social work.
Mm.
I could have become a therapist,
Mm.
but it was specific. I want you to be a life coach. And what I found very interesting when I was taking my program was it was filled with therapists and it was filled with psychiatrists,
Mm.
psychologists. There's a reason the coaching industry is as popular as it is, because we can be loose in a sense with our languaging.
Mm.
And coaching is very results focused,
Mm.
right? It's results focused. It's my job as your coach
Mm.
to move you through a very specific process to
Mm.
bring you to your desired results. Now,
Yeah.
each woman will come to me at a
Mm.
different place, right? She's had different
Mm.
experiences. Life has kicked her in many different ways.
Mm.
Her process with me might be different than another client's process, but ultimately it's to receive those results that she wants, that she needs, and it's my job to bring her there.
That story is a deep one. So your husband, bless him, is gone. You wake up
Yeah.
and he's not breathing. That happened to my dad. My dad slept and didn't wake up. Nicely locked into his bed, covered nicely, no fight, no nothing. In the morning, everyone thought he was sleeping. There was a house help at home. They thought dad was sleeping. Only this time, he always listens like to BBC or news on the radio, and he didn't turn it on. And so the house help was wondering, like, what is happening? There's no woken up. It's 10 a.m. There's no sound of like news. What's going on? So he enters his bedroom and dad is like dead. That is shock. Like when someone is not sick, nothing has happened and they just wake up dead. That is
Yeah.
shock. So
So
I can
you understand.
I
You can
understand.
understand. Yeah.
Now I imagine you even probably woke up from the bed and thought you were sleeping. My goodness.
Yes. I thought I was hearing him snoring.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is
So I got up. It was the Tuesday morning. The kids are going back to school now. He needed to get up to go to work. Right? I got up, I went to the bathroom. I feel terrible in all honesty because it was our son that came into our room when I was in the bathroom. And he tried also to wake his father up. That is traumatizing. It is a traumatizing, we don't want to feel our trauma. I'm sure that must have been traumatizing to your family with your father.
I don't think I've recovered from it. When
How
dad
long ago? How
passed,
long ago was that? How long ago?
2.5 years ago, when dad passed, I had like 15 missed calls from dad. He kept trying to call me every day of the week. And then I called him and said, Dad, you're calling me too much. What's going on? And he said, am I not allowed to miss my daughter? Am I not allowed to invite you that you come and see me? I said, Dad, but you're busy. He said, yeah, so when are you coming to see me? And I said, I'll see you in Christmas. He said, how sure are you that we have Christmas together? I said, that I'm coming to see you on Christmas. It's a deal, blah, 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 blah. I talked him out of, and he said, all right. He kept trying to call me and we started talking on the chat, like, what is happening to dad? And he was calling most of my siblings. We're like, what's going on with dad? Is he losing his mind? And we all just kept laughing at it. We should think about it Thanksgiving, go talk to dad. And before we knew it, he was normal. Take a break. What did you do to move from grieving to I've got to do something? I've got to move. How did you move on from that?
How did I move? Honestly, by the hand of God pushing me. So, it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't easy, and there was no straight path. It's been like at times felt like the most horrifying roller coaster I could be on. There's times where I felt suspended in the air. So I said a few minutes ago that I knew I needed to take some time off for myself and for my children. And it was a very early stage after George passed. Last month was 21 years for my husband's passing. So it was maybe a month or so after, when the children had finished school, and I put them in a day camp for the summer, and I had just dropped them off, and I came back home, and I used to smoke cigarettes. So I went on the balcony, and I was chain smoking, and I was sitting there. That's when I would really be able to let, like, the really ugly, crazy cry, like where people, if they saw you, they would think maybe you're insane. And that's why I would go to have that time for myself. But I started to have these thoughts, Prima, in my head from conversations with the kids, how much they miss their father and how much I miss being a wife. Like having that role taken away. We were married at that point 18 years. Having that role taken away felt very bizarre, very odd. Trying to find my place in the world. I didn't know my place in the world, right? In any case, I started to have thoughts about how I could take myself and my two children's lives because we wanted to be together in heaven as a family. Well, I have to tell you something. I was so scared and so frightened. But again, I'm very blessed because the Lord has always spoken to me since I'm very little. And I heard him say, go into your room and find the card to the grief counselor from the funeral home. I ran in my room. I literally was like tearing drawers apart because I didn't know where I had put the folder with all of the information, and I found it, and I called. So this was really the one first clear, concrete move I made. And I phoned, and thank God she was there. And I shared with her what was going on. And she said, don't worry. She goes, because those thoughts are normal. Those thoughts are part of grief. And I was like, because I was so scared. But you see, God intervened because most people would be so scared and they would take themselves to the local hospital, to the emergency department. But if I would have done that, the outcome would have been different. If I would have done that, they would have drugged me. They would have put me on the psychotic ward, on the locked ward, possibly put a straitjacket on me, and then remove my children from the home. Right? That's how that would have went. But because, again, I'm blessed and the Lord speaks to me, I heard clear direction, do this. I did this. So my next steps after that was meeting with the grief counselor. Then she connected me with a psychiatrist that dealt solely in grief. But not just in grief, but for young spouses. Because listen, when you're 40, it's a really different feeling of finding yourself to be a widow than when you're 60 or when you're 80. So there were other people in the bereavement. So I started to see him one-on-one. I got the children to start to have sessions with him. Then we started to go to bereavement groups. I went to mine and the kids went to theirs. And even in mine, there was a couple of other people in that group that were younger than myself that had lost their spouse, which late 20s, early 30s, that's a very young age to lose your spouse. That's an age where we can lose our parent, but to lose your spouse. So now, yeah, this is really the first year of the loss, and the grief is very evident. And my experience with grief, because I had a prior experience 18 years before that with my father's loss. Not that is a whole other story, but I want to stay clear. I want to be clear. There's a lot of insanity attached to grief, and I mean that in all of the best ways. You'll feel like you're losing your mind. It may look to other people around you like you're losing your mind. You're not. Just like that woman, Isabel, the grief counselor, told me, Andrea, those thoughts that you're having of taking your life and your children's life is normal. We need to normalize sometimes the way we respond or the way we react to very serious circumstances that are taking place in our life. So the first year I focused a lot on my healing, working with the psychiatrist, having the children. I have to heal because I'm responsible to help my children heal. It's not like, oh, Andrea is just by yourself. And my mother, I was taking care of an elderly disabled mother all while
Mm,
this was happening. So I felt
mm,
very stretched thin. I was
mm,
experiencing a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. How
mm,
could I not know my husband had died? I'm sleeping right beside him.
mm,
How did I not know? What if I knew and I could have phoned 911? You
mm,
know, I felt like I killed my children's father. Now
mm,
I feel guilty because my kids now are growing up without a father. So there's a lot of, when I talk about insanity, it's all of those emotions and those feelings that
mm,
really make you feel flippin' insane.
mm,
So so the first year was really based on my healing, going to bereavement groups,
mm,
working with the psychiatrist, as I said, working, having the children go, they were seeing the psychiatrist on their own in their own sessions, and they were going to their own bereavement groups. Now I'm it's past that first year
mm,
where I'm at a place, I'm not completely healed,
mm,
but I feel more whole,
mm,
right? Also, I have no money. And I'm like, I have to go to work. Like, this isn't a joke anymore. But
mm,
again, it was like, well, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And again, because there's one less income, now it makes me start to have to take a look at, well, what I was earning prior to my husband's passing
mm,
isn't going to cut it now to take care of two children. So
mm,
now it's like, well, who and what do I want to be when I grow up? That's how I felt like. I felt like a kid who, when we ask kids, so what do you want to
mm,
do when you grow up? Right? I was 41. Who do you want to be, Andrea, when you grow up? I don't know. In any case, as I said, I took that career exploration workshop, which
mm,
really helped me. I did it. I knew, okay, no, I'm not going to go back into the art world, even though it seems so glamorous. Oh, maybe possibly work in a gallery. Yeah,
mm,
okay. No, not happening. Life coaching was it.
mm.
That was
So
the
now
industry.
you take this career workshop and that
Yeah,
drops you into the life coaching.
that is what helped me to make my decision because I
Mm,
couldn't at that point decide. It helped
mm,
me to make my decision. And then I started to look into getting certified. So
mm,
I did one certification
mm,
and met the facilitator. And I asked her, well, where did you get your full certification? So she mentioned the school mentor coach.
mm,
And she recommended that. And then I did that program was a year, and then I did another certification.
mm,
And all of the while I'm taking my certifications, a couple of my friends here in Toronto who I would always come to me when they would have some issues when they couldn't make decisions, started to refer clients to me. So I
mm,
was already starting to coach before I was certified. And even then, really now, I think just now, the industry is making it mandatory for certification. When
mm,
I came into it in 2004, you
mm,
didn't need to be certified.
mm,
Anybody could say that they were a coach. But it
mm,
was important for me because even with my social work background,
mm,
even with the sales background where you're working with people and it's all about relationships,
mm,
I felt like I really want to do this. And I'm glad I did because when you're a coach, you're really trained to listen in a very different, structured way.
mm,
You need to be able to hear what's not being said. You need to
mm.
be able to know how to ask a probing question to be able to pull out that right, like you were doing with me prior to this recording, right? Because you
Mm,
have to know how to probe and pull out and extract
mm,
what is really important. And listen, Prima, I don't feel like, to me, age is just a number. I'm going to be 62 in October. I don't really feel like I'm 62. Somewhere in my head, I still think I'm in my 30s, but
mm,
I'm not because I have a son that's 31, so I can't be in my 30s.
mm,
But we don't we don't want to know, we don't want to face, we don't want to have to take a look at really what's going on. So
mm,
because I've worked with people for as long as I've worked with them,
mm,
and I'm as human as you're as human,
Mm,
right? I too have gone through those times in my life where I'm not so happy. 2 weeks before George passed away,
mm,
I was having a very loud argument conversation with God
mm,
about what is the status of my life, God. I
mm,
was in an industry, kept kept doing what they were telling me to do in order to achieve the success that this company promised you could have in it. I'm like, God, I don't understand. What's going on? Do I
mm,
have to leave this marriage? Do I stay in this marriage?
mm,
And 2 weeks later, Prima,
mm.
my husband passed away in his sleep.
Wow.
So you want to talk about feeling guilty, feeling
Mm,
like you possibly created this?
mm.
It's not a fun place to find yourself.
It's not. I want to pivot a little bit, Andrea, and I want you to take us. I know you have a beautiful blueprint that takes these women from this place of having noise in your head to a place of total freedom and being
Yes.
clear of your next steps in life. And
Okay.
it would be so beautiful if we got to learn from this blueprint of yours, which is from the School of Life certification.
I love that. Yes. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Okay. So I've always been very intuitive with my coaching, and I've always
Mm,
allowed the spirit to lead me with the
mm,
client.
mm,
So I've, over 18 plus years now of doing this, I've
mm,
kind of refined it. So because I've always been about mindset, it's
mm,
always what takes place between your two ears. And let's face it, it's a battleground. For most
mm,
of us, there's a war going on in our head, but we
mm,
don't understand.
mm,
So, I'm going to meet with you, Prima, and we're going to get to know each other because that's really important. There has
mm.
to be that connection,
Yeah.
not so much with me, but from you, the client, to me.
Mm, mm,
Okay. I need to know a little bit about you. I want to get to know you. Not that I need to. I
mm,
want you. You're really important to me. Who
mm,
you are, where you've been, the experiences that you've had,
mm,
very important. But now, really, what do you want? Okay.
mm,
Because you can come very confused. Like if
mm,
you're going to show up, let's face it, there's a little bit of crisis going on in your life. There's
mm,
probably a whole lot of confusion. And what I need to lead you on this path to
mm,
clarity, which will eventually give you the emotional freedom. So we're going to take a look at things each week. We're going to
mm,
work together. I just created a new offer, which I'm really excited about.
mm,
And this is a 12-week offer, and we meet weekly, once a week. So
mm,
each week is very specific. We're going to take a look at so the first session is that get to know. I need to
mm,
know you. I need to know stuff about you. The second week, we're really going to start diving into your thoughts. And really, ultimately, the full program really is about what Prima's thoughts are. Because her
mm,
thoughts are like an addiction.
mm,
Okay, so even though we might have somebody in our family that could be an alcoholic and we don't think we have any shit going on in our life, guess what?
mm,
Your thoughts, possibly, more than likely, is your drug of choice.
mm,
Your story, what is the story Prima's been telling herself
mm,
about where she is? I really want you to be able to, Prima, reframe your perspective on your
mm,
life. Because for
mm,
me, I fully believe life is a connect the dots. You can connect the dots. And when I say
mm,
that, I mean this. There could be a situation that's taken place in your life.
mm,
And if you think about the thoughts leading up to that event happening,
mm,
you can connect. Well, this is how I felt about myself. And this is the feelings of abandonment. And these are the feelings of low self esteem,
mm,
self-worth issues. We need to take a look at that because
mm,
our thoughts really are our choice. We choose
mm,
our thoughts. Now,
mm,
your thoughts and your feelings are connected. Whatever your thoughts are, if you wake up and you're thinking positive thoughts,
mm,
today is a great day, what's going to happen? you're going to feel really good.
Mm.
And then you're going to have a good day because you're going to take those action steps, those
Mm.
baby steps. We don't need to, Rome wasn't built in a day. This thing, this change for you is not going to happen in one day. But when you
Mm.
start to understand, when you start to take a look at, well, okay, the first words out of my mouth, the first thoughts in my head is, oh my God, it's raining outside, or I
Mm.
didn't sleep, or I feel so this, or I feel so tired. We're already on
Mm.
this. The ground is not level. The foundation is not firm. It's very
Mm.
shaky, right? So
Mm.
now we take a look at that. We take a look at your story. We take a look at your beliefs. And
Mm.
I don't know, a lot of people understand this expression, but
Mm.
most people do not. A belief is just a thought that you think over and over and over.
Mm.
So it anchors in, and now it feels real. So it
Mm.
becomes part of our belief system.
Mm.
And for the most part, most of us have adapted other people's beliefs. Sometimes
Mm.
it's in our lineage.
Mm.
So my great grandmother could have had a certain belief system that my grandmother took, that then got passed down to my mother, which then
Mm.
got passed down to me. So it's really about removing the veil. We
Mm.
really need to remove that veil. We really need to take a look.
Mm.
And it's my job to really help you become more loving to yourself,
Mm.
more accepting of yourself and of those
Mhm.
mistakes that you're now taking ownership for. You're no longer pointing fingers and
Mm.
blaming your husband for your failed career, or blaming your children, or blaming your parents, or
Mm.
blaming friends. You're now learning how to, oh, okay, I was the one that chose to have that thought. I was the
Mm.
one that chose to make that decision. I also get her to understand that it's a really different result you're going to receive when you're making your decisions, no
Mm.
matter how big and no matter how small,
Mm.
from a place of, are you making them from your trauma,
Mm.
or are you making these decisions from your healing? When you start to do this work, which never stops, it's not like, oh, I'm going to work with Andrea for 12 weeks
Mm.
and I'm good to go. I give you the tools because this
Mm.
is ongoing work.
Mm.
Life is gonna happen.
Mm.
You know, prior to meeting my husband, I had lost my father,
Mm.
right? That set me off on a course of my first
Mm.
experience with grief, right? I did the work, or I didn't do the work. I went through the insanity. I all of that, to now 18 years after losing my father, I
Mm.
lost my husband, to
Mm.
losing my mother, to raising children. Life, my son went through a depression. My daughter was hit by a car. I'm trying to build a business. I feel overwhelmed. I feel swallowed up.
Mm.
Always have worked with a life coach.
Mm.
And that is how I keep myself. Never mind business coaches, some good, some not good, some receiving results, some not receiving results. But I
Mm.
have always made sure that I've kept myself supported, because we need, listen, wouldn't it be wonderful if life went like all of the support, emotional support you need is right there at your fingertips? You got a loving, supportive family, and you
Mm.
never have, but that's not the case for most of
Mm.
us,
Because we are going through life.
right? And you can't depend on a friend
Mm.
to help you. I mean, they can support you, absolutely. I don't know where I would be in my life without my girlfriends, for
Mm.
sure. But
Mm.
they weren't the one that are there
Mm.
helping me in the muck, it's like you're in this puddle of mud, in a sense,
Mm.
right?
No
They
one
weren't the
can do
ones.
life for you. Like at some
No,
point you gotta deal with your own decisions. And so people can support you all they want, but no one is getting in the mud. No one is getting in the mud. I'm taking
right.
note, Andrea, and My first thing, which is number one, is the first thing is, okay, what do you want your next steps to be? What do you want your life to be? What do you want your second half to be? Not the how, but what. That's the first thing you take them through is, do you even know what you want? So that's the first step. Number two, what are your thoughts? What are your beliefs? Who is running the show of your life? Who is running this? Who is writing the story right now? You get them to think about that because you're addicted to those thoughts and those are making your choices every day. So we analyze those thoughts that you've become addicted to, which is more of like the awareness of this is why there's so much noise in your head. The next thing, we reframe the perspective you have about life, which has been shaped by the thoughts. So step 3 is we're going to reframe your perspective. We're going to give you a new lens to use to see the world because the world will always be what it is. But your flame is going to help. Your lens is going to help. Your interpretation of things is going to help. And so we're going to help you change that lens. That's going to help you with self-worth issues, self-esteem, and it's going to help you start thinking positively because whatever you wake up to, that is most likely what will run the day. Whatever mood you wake up in, that is what will run the day. And then where I am right now, Andrea, is get around people who can support you.
Yes.
What have I missed on this process and what do we need to add? I feel like I've taken notes, but maybe I've missed some things. What have I missed? And what are we adding on that process of moving from a very chaotic place to a very clear future?
Yes. So through that process, because it is, when you're talking about mindset, when you're talking about feelings and thoughts, it's delicate. It's delicate work in a sense. So there comes she starts to know, she can feel. Because it's about how we can feel when, listen, we hear people telling us all the time how anxious they are, how they suffer from anxiety, how they're having panic attacks. So we know that internally we feel a certain way, correct? Through this process, you're going to start, and I love that because it is about the awareness. You can start to like, oh my goodness, I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better. I can have those uncomfortable conversations with those family members that I need to have now. Because there's a strength that you may have felt at one point in your life, or this may be something so new to you because you've released resistance. Because this is all about change. And change is a very intricate experience. When we're in reinventing ourselves, we're transforming ourselves. It's very intricate. I know I keep repeating that same word because that really is the truth of this. And it's through this process of looking and taking personal accountability without beating yourself up. Because the world, and you learn how to define yourself in a different way. You're no longer allowing yourself to be defined from others or this world. You're starting to connect with God. You're starting to build your own personal relationship because I am very spiritual, because God plays such a big role in my own personal life. I share this with you because this is what He wants with you. And He's placed you with me for this purpose. Did I answer? And if I didn't, please tell me, because I want to make sure
you did, because I want her to get to that place where they feel more loving, more accepting, release the blame. And now, after I have gotten to that place where I am accepting, I am sleeping better, I am feeling better, I actually know what I want. Is there another step, or is it like now that you know what you want, go get it? Or is there steps to actually help them get started on getting what they want?
So it depends because
Mm,
everybody is different and everybody comes to me with a different purpose
mm,
of needing my coaching. But all
mm,
the way along, because as we're working together, so the
mm,
sessions are fantastic, but it's really what happens in between those sessions is
mm,
truly when that client is really going to go through their process, the processing
mm,
of everything. The session's recorded, so they can go back and listen to what they said. Because sometimes, like for myself, I
mm,
don't take notes. When I'm doing something, I
mm,
need for the way I learn, I need to be present. That's why I
mm,
like when things are recorded, because then
mm,
I can go back in and I can listen and then I can take my notes. So I'm
mm,
going to give you assignments, call it homework.
mm,
So through the session, as I'm listening, as we're talking, as you're sharing, now it's like, okay, so you know what? So Prima's been speaking about wanting to become X.
mm,
Great. So now
mm,
I'm going to give you some homework very much geared to that. Maybe I'm going to ask you to do some research on that.
mm,
Because the way I coach, it's called coactive coaching, which
mm,
means the client is very much involved in this process.
mm,
So I'll always ask the client to bring 2 or 3 topics
mm,
to that session, and I need it sent to me the night before,
mm,
right? Because this is you. I can't get the results for you.
mm,
Coaching, and the reason, and I'm sorry, sometimes I go back and forth when I talk.
mm,
The biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons also why I chose the industry of coaching, other
mm,
than it being results orientated, was because it has the client do the work.
yes.
It's about the client learning. The coach is not here to get the client's result. It's about giving
Mm,
you the tools. I want to arm you. I want to
mm,
arm you with the right armor, the right tools that are going to create that solid foundation for you so that you
mm,
can continue to move forward. So each week, at the end of each session, I'm going to give you something that's tailored to
mm,
your desired results.
mm,
Okay, so if a woman's coming to me, I do a lot of grief work, but I don't do grief work at the beginning, for instance.
mm,
Usually it's about the first 6 months or after that first year when you're
mm,
feeling stuck in the grief and you don't know how to move forward from it.
mm,
So the work with her is going to be different. The
mm,
assignments each week would be different than that woman who stayed at that job for the last 30, 40 years, wanting her pension only to be asked or not asked, told that your job is no longer here for you. Now
mm,
she's like, I don't know what I want to do. I thought I wanted to be this. This was what I wanted. I wanted the pension. So she comes with a different purpose of why she needs me.
mm,
So I gear everything specific.
mm,
A tailor make, even though my offer is my offer is my offer,
mm,
your sessions and the way I work with you, I need to tailor
mm,
it specifically to what your needs are because we all have different needs.
mm.
All of us have
So
different needs.
I think I understand what you're saying. So first of all, you're gonna help me be clear on really what I want. Be
Yes,
clear, get that fog out, get the self-blame out, get the noise out of your head. I
exactly.
understand your process. Get the noise out of your head. Get in touch with your stories, you know, like what are you addicted to? Reframe that, get a new lens, get your self-worth back, get positive thoughts, get to a place where you really are loving, more accepting, and you've released all of that. That in that
Yes,
place, you're now ready, you're now clear. And now you know what, Andrea, I've always wanted this thing here and this thing here. I think next week I want to talk about this thing. And then
yes,
you keep holding the space for them as they
yes,
create. Because now the fog is out, the chaos is out, there's clarity. And now you can coach. As opposed to when they come in, you really have to help them pivot their head so that they are in a space where you can coach.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Listen, I
Fantastic.
had a client come to me. a while back.
Mm.
And first, initially, she sent her daughter to work with me. Her
Mm.
husband and herself were having issues. The daughter at that time was 17 years of age. And if
Mm.
any of you are mothers to teenage girls, you know how often frustrating that can be. So
Mm.
I'm working with the daughter, but when I'm working with younger people,
Mm.
the parents have to get involved.
Mm.
So the mother knew she needed coaching. The father was very resistant, and that's fine. So now I'm working with the mother. I finished working with the daughter. The daughter's really made some phenomenal movement. And that's the beautiful thing about coaching also. It's not about creating dependency, it's about
Mm.
independence. So
Mm.
now I'm working with the mother who is not even sure she wants to be married any longer. So
Mm.
we're coaching her. And through the coaching, she makes the decision no, she wants to separate and she wants to be divorced. This was one of my longest clients. She worked with me for 2.5 years because the
Mm.
transitions of her life. So now I'm supporting her through this process of the decision and what
Mm.
it takes. And that first part of go to your husband and now tell him you want a divorce after, 25 years of marriage and need it, right? To now she's becoming independent. Now she's buying her first property. So
Mm.
the the individual,
Mm.
it's a metamorphosis. We are changing and we are
Mm.
supposed to evolve. Nothing is meant to be stagnant, but
Mm.
how we move. Listen, I wish I could tell you, Prima, that through all of my life and all of heartache and hard circumstances, I always moved with grace.
Mm.
And, but I didn't. Okay. There were times like I came in like a flipping wrecking ball. There were
Mm.
times in my own life that
Mm.
I blew up. Why? Because of the habitual thoughts and
Mm.
how I felt about myself,
Mm.
how I felt about myself, that
Mm.
feelings of shame and the feelings of guilt, the feeling like I messed my kids up. When my son went
Mm.
into his depression from grief,
Mm.
I can't begin to tell you how that affected me.
Mm.
To see your child
Mm.
struggling,
Mm.
you take many of us as parents, if you're smart, you won't. But unfortunately, most of us at that stage, we're not smart. We take it on, we make it now about us. I did this, or I can't provide, or right. And it becomes like a snowball and it grows and it grows and it grows. And
Mm.
often we can feel like we're being swallowed up. So you're right. It's about removing that clarity, getting the removing the confusion, excuse me, to bringing clarity, because when we're clear, we're
Mm.
powerful.
I like your work, but the part I like the most is that part where you help someone get out of their head, clear your head, throw the blame the other side, get really gentle with yourself. I like that part because it is impossible to move on when you're stuck in that part of blaming yourself and doing this and doing this and all of those thoughts in your head. It's just impossible to move forward. So I love the work you do. I think that it's super, super powerful. I know you have a new program, and I don't know if have we talked enough about it. I would love for people to know if they wanted to join the program, where they should
Okay.
go. But can you give me like 1 minute summary of
Yeah, so
who it's
fantastic.
for
Okay.
and what's happening? I know we talked about it, but I want to kind of do like a recap. What is happening in
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
program? Mm.
Yes. So first of all, I
Mm.
think I sent you, and if I didn't, I definitely will get that off to you right away. I
Mm.
have
Mm.
two free offers because I love to be able to give. Listen, I'm here to be of service
Mm.
when God needs us all to do his work,
Mm.
right? So, my first offer is a 30-minute breakthrough session.
Mm. I
And I
love
think I
that.
supplied you the link. Yes.
Mm.
Right? It's not a sales call. You're going to come and you're going to bring something that you need to get a little bit of clarity on, or you need that breakthrough. Because you know what? 30 minutes is very powerful, and a lot can take place in 30 minutes. The second free offer is something that God gave to me just a couple of months ago. And I call it's a prayer journal, and it's called Stamp It on Your Heart. And it's a very fun and creative way to start to learn the Word of God and to take the scriptures, because God does speak to us and He will give you personal scriptures, but I've given 9 of my own personal scriptures that God has given to me. And it helps to shift you to a different vibration, to a vibration of gratitude and appreciation. And it's daily fun work, and you do it twice a day. Okay. Now my offer, and it feels good, Prima, because I haven't created a new way to work with me in a while. So it really feels really good right now. So this is a one-on-one. It's the only offer I have. It's 12 weeks, and I'm really going to help you to make sense of really what's happened, why it's happened, and so you can now move forward. And the price, so it's 12 weeks. We meet once a week over a 12-week period, and I like it. So this is how I work. Other coaches may work differently. We always pick the same day and the same time of your sessions, because that helps for us with all of the other scheduling that we have going on in our life. And it keeps it consistent. We work together. I lead you through this process if we just talked about it. And the cost is $4,888 US. How they can get a hold of me. You can reach me on my social media platforms, on Instagram and on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I just went on TikTok, but I haven't done anything yet. So we'll have my Calendly link. So on Facebook, it's Andrea Julia Brunswick, and that's where you can find me, and you can DM me. You can listen, you can sign up and get the prayer journal, the Stamp It on Your Heart. I have your email address. You can leave a note in there. I can get a hold of you. On my LinkedIn and on my Instagram, I'm under Andrea Brunswick. And on TikTok, it's Andrea.Brunswick. I don't know how that happened or why that happened, but I had to take that name. It's really simple. It's not hard to get a hold of me. I very much love DMs. And I think I did it with you when I saw your post for your podcast. I'm very old school, and I don't really like to type. So I like to leave voice messages. And I think I left you a voice DM. Leave me a DM, type it out, work it out, voice it out. Now, as I said earlier, the processing for the client happens between sessions. And sometimes you need to reach your coach. Sometimes there's something that comes up in between your sessions. Well, that's okay, because I make myself available to you through the DMs, and I'm going to get back to you.
I love
So
it.
it's really simple. Nothing is it's just basic, and it's simple. It's a 12-week process. We're going to meet once a week for 12 weeks. I'm guiding you. That's my job. It's your job to be coachable. And that's another thing that I find out at the beginning, because if you're full of resistance, it might not be time for you, and that's okay. I'm not here for your money. And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right?
Andrea, you've been fantastic. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you, Prima. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea has various ways you can reach out to her, you can connect with her, and all of the things she's talked about will be rightfully in the show notes. So if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on the podcast platforms, on audio or on YouTube, scroll through the notes, and every link, every way to connect with Andrea will be right there. She has a journal, which is going to help you get into the habit of, I think, changing your thoughts. And I think you will really love that. That's a gift that she wants to give. She has a 30-minute breakthrough. Give it a go. Dip the toes in and see what 30 minutes can do for you. And if you love the 30 minutes, she has a 12 weeks program where she holds your hand as one human being and walks you through that process that got her from smoking the pipe or wherever to where you see her right now. I don't know what place you're in. I don't know where you desire to be, but it's my hope that Andrea has blessed you. I have one ask, and that is, if you know one person in this universe that needs Andrea, this is my request. Share this episode with them. If you know someone that is in a crisis, maybe it's midlife, maybe it's lost husband, maybe it's lost child, but you know that they're in this place where they're resorting to maybe smoking or drugs, or you just know things are bad. Maybe they lost a loved one and they just can't seem to bounce from that. Andrea is very good at helping you close that chapter. It's life. There's nothing you're going to do about it. It's life. But she's going to help you close that chapter so that the next 50 years don't look like the past. And if there's something for you and you would love to connect with Andrea, please do check the show notes. All of her contacts will be there. Reach out. One person that needs to meet Andrea, because Andrea is a best kept secret. If everyone in the world knew Andrea, we wouldn't have people addicted to stuff. We wouldn't have marriages falling apart because people can actually heal themselves. We wouldn't have all these things happening. So the more people get to meet Andrea, the more beautiful we can all have our second lives. And so bless one woman with this episode. And as usual, my friend, please rate, please subscribe, please support the channel, because the more you rate, the more you subscribe, the more comments you give us and reviews, the bigger the community, the bigger the game I can play, the more amazing guests I can bring on. You empower me with your participation in this episode. And so I really want to ask of you to be a part of it. And so I want to honor you, appreciate you, celebrate you, and I do not take your time for granted. I sincerely hope that this episode has blessed you, and I will see you very, very soon with yet another episode from another best kept secret. Talk to you later. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the world's best kept secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.